What is going on? Welcome into Big Time Football Talk. So let's preview the national championship. It's Georgia versus TCU. TCU, the Cinderella. It seems like America's team. It seems like the team everyone is rooting for and wants to take down mighty Georgia. So what's the key to victory for TCU? First off, they're going to have to force some turnovers. I mean, you got to believe TCU if they win this game. The stat line. Box score will have to show, Stetson Bennett 2 interceptions or, Kenny McIntosh, one of the receivers with 1 or 2 fumbles. And, TCU gets the ball, good field position. Maybe TCU, and they might have to make a big play on special teams. Their punt returner has been very good. So, TCU, can they get a couple interceptions? Can they get a big punt return? Can they keep this game close and put some pressure on Georgia? Because, if Georgia gets – the worst nightmare for TCU, even though TCU can come back, I feel like if they get down early to Georgia, because I have a hard time believing that they could come back against Georgia. Have they come back before the season? Yes, but if you get down against Georgia, it's a recipe for disaster because, Georgia's going to want to really hunker down, start running the ball, impose their will with the offensive line, try to eat into that time of possession. So who are the key players for Georgia in this game? I think it's Brock Bowers, number one. You get the feel. Brock Bowers had a nice game against Ohio State, but you kind of get the feel like he's due for a monster game against this TCU defense that's pretty solid. But like people have touched on, they haven't seen a tight end like Brock Bowers. So Brock Bowers could be poised, for a big game in this one. So Brock Bowers got to watch for. I think Ladd McConkey, his health was in question the last game. Looked like he was a bit hobbled with an injury. I think he's going to get one. I think he'll get a touchdown. I think he'll have some sort of a big play. Ladd McConkey, kind of the forgotten about guy. A.D. Mitchell, I know TCU's going to watch the tape. They're probably going to want to take away A.D. Mitchell based on what they seen last game against Ohio State. So Ladd McConkey could be that forgotten about guy that'll make a play in the slot or just make a big play, via end around or whatever. But yeah, so Ladd McConkey definitely a guy to watch out for in this game. Kenny McIntosh, of course, Kendall Milton, the Georgia running backs, and then the Georgia offensive line versus the TCU defensive line. I think is key in this game. So, but for TCU, I mean, Max Duggan, he's going to have to be good. He's going to have to make some plays with his legs, make some plays with his arms. His arm, with his arm. Well, maybe both arms. He maybe have to use a stiff arm or maybe throw one left-handed if he's under pressure. But Max Duggan, Quentin Johnston. It seems like the consensus is that he's going to be limited with, they're going to have Ringo on him. Maybe they will double team him a little bit, Kirby Smart. But I think Quentin Johnston, like he did against Michigan, that 76-yard reception, I think he could do something like that again in this game. Maybe if TCU is having success, maybe Georgia dials up the pressure on one play. Johnston's open one-on-one for an opportunity, and he makes a play. Or, in the red zone, if he's one-on-one versus Ringo, or Lassitier for a jump ball, maybe makes a play, gets him a big needed touchdown. So, Quentin Johnston, definitely got to watch. Maybe the best receiver in this upcoming draft. It's very likely he will be the number one receiver taken. I know a lot of analysts have him as the number one wide receiver on the big board right now, and he's very deserving of that crown. I mean, he's had a nice season this year, very good season last year, just a good overall career at TCU. So TCU running backs, Miller, how healthy he is. Miller, number one, and the other guy, number 3, DeMercado, had a really nice game against Michigan. He really stepped up big. Was over 150 yards, I believe. So DeMercado, can he be, if Miller's limited, can he be the bell cow in this game and really get the offense flowing? And then, TCU's offensive line, I was very impressed when I went back and watched them every game, and they're probably the unit on TCU that gets the least amount of notoriety, but it's a very good unit. And Yeah, I really like their O-line overall. They do have some size. We'll see how they match up with the Georgia defensive line. I think that's a crucial matchup in this game. The TCU's offensive line versus the Georgia defensive line. Can they limit Carter? Carter, he played all right against Ohio State, was limited in his amount of snaps, but can TCU's offensive line, can they neutralize him? Because he's really going to want to try to feast on the big stage once again, and really help improve his already tremendously high draft stock that he has. So, can they limit Jalen Carter? Who from the Georgia linebackers has a big game? Does Munden have a lot of tackles? Does Dumas Johnson make a lot of tackles? Christopher Smith, it seems like he's made a big play in a lot of big games, even going back to the Clemson game last year, the pick six that eventually was the game-winning touchdown, and made some big hits against Ohio State, returned the blocked field goal for a touchdown. So does Christopher Smith. He's a guy that could be poised to make a big play in this game for the Georgia Bulldogs defense. But Sonny Dykes and TCU, I've gained a lot of respect for this TCU team. The more I've watched, the more I hear about Sonny Dykes. He is a good coach. I mean, some success at Cal. I don't think anyone thought he was going to have the success year one at TCU that he has. But it kind of makes sense that TCU was successful this year, even though they have overachieved as far as like the expectations set, because TCU, they've actually recruited fairly well. I mean, you're right in the heart of Texas, so you are going to add, you will have some talent, and TCU has produced some NFL guys over the year. I mean, Andy Dalton's been pretty solid. Tank Carter, despite his NFL career, was a very good college linebacker. And they have, LT going further back. They have been a program that's, if you're just a very casual football, if you're a very casual college football fan, you might think of TCU. Are they in are they like a Central Michigan? Are they like a non-Power 5? I think some people do forget that they still are a Big 12 Power 5 team. Obviously, if you do follow college football, you know that they have been in the Big 10 for a while now, since 2011. But yeah, TCU, though, they haven't really earned that respect nationally. You thought 2014 they were going to get it. They were going to get their shot to get in the playoffs. Ohio State ended up getting that bid and winning it all. So is this, if they do this is, it'll be interesting to see how much this helps their recruiting. It's definitely going to help it, but, could this help spiral them for the 24 class? Could this help spiral them into a top 10, top 15 class? They've kind of lived from that 25 to 35 range as far as overall rankings. They did have a really good year getting in transfers this year. Johnny Hodges, the linebacker, came over from Navy. Wiley, the tight end from Texas. So this year was a very nice year as far as the transfer portal is concerned. But yeah, you go to the playoff, it will help it. You win a national title, that'll really get the brand. And when you compare these two teams, just based off of 24 rankings, 5-star, it really looks like Georgia has the upper hand. But if you look at TCU, they have guys that weren't necessarily super highly ranked. I mean, even Quentin Johnson, he was a 4-star, but he's kind of like I think he was ranked like in the 116, 100, he was their highest recruit, but he was a 4-star. Georgia's used to landing 4-stars. No disrespect to TCU, but they've developed him. Hodges Tomlinson's going to be an NFL guy. Johnson will be an NFL guy. I think D. Winters will be an NFL guy. Maybe Hodge, the linebacker, number 6. Bud Clark. When you look up these, that's kind of been one of like the aha moment in picking college football games, deciding which team's going to have a good season, is if you look at guys who have a skill set that translates well to the NFL, and you get a collection of those guys, that's what really determines a team's success and determines if a team can pull an upset. Because I've always thought that, for example, Florida lost to Ole Miss in 2008, and the first reaction is Florida was a lot better team and they have better players. But if you looked at Ole Miss team, they had they had Aldon Smith, defensive end. They had some NFL guys. If you look, when teams pull the upset, it's because they have usually a few NFL guys and they make big plays. So that's why I keep focusing in on Max Johnston, despite what you think, or Max Duggan, despite what you think his NFL future is. Quentin Johnson, NFL guy. Hodges Tomlinson, NFL guy. D. Winters, I think, is an NFL guy. When you have NFL guys, you can go toe-to-toe with the big dogs of Georgia, who always have NFL guys and always have good players, even in the down years. And like many people think this is like a down year for Georgia. So, but this is exciting because as the more and more I've listened to and I've watched, I'm getting more and more excited for this game. And I do think at 12.5 points, I do think Georgia will cover. But I think it's interesting that you get this matchup. It's interesting to get a matchup like this because you really want to see the Big 12. Going back, the Big 12 just hasn't had their shot in the national title. I never forget 2011 because Oklahoma State that year was really good. Brandon Whedon, Justin Blackman. Some people argued they should have played LSU in that national title game. Now LSU lost, but I think the consensus was, LSU and Bama were far better than everyone else in college football that year. So, if they would have got their shot, the Big 12 didn't get their shot that year. If they would have got their shot, what would have happened? Could they have won? Could they have kept it close? And then 2014, TCU and Baylor, could one of those teams have, upset Bama in that first game, and then could they have beat Oregon with Mariota and all the speed? So that would have been a chance to make an undisputed national title win. You beat Alabama, the champion of the SEC, and then you take down Oregon, who was the gold standard of the Pac-12 with all that speed and all the style with the uniforms and stuff. So it really would have been Big 12 just is finally going to get that shot in the national title. You saw them already make a statement against a very good Michigan team in the first round. So this will be fun. I can't wait. SoFi Stadium tomorrow in Los Angeles, the home of the Rams and the Chargers. So we'll see how this game develops. And we'll watch that line, 12.5. I like Georgia to cover. I think they do win by 3 scores. But, my prediction could be wrong because I did have a take where I thought Michigan was going to blow out TCU. So I could easily be wrong in this game, and TCU could keep it close and could really make this a game. So I'll wrap with that. Thanks so much for tuning in to Big Time Football Talk. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.